We talked last time about Tawheed. When we finished, it was the last of the definition. We said Muslims should be aware of the meanings of all definitions that's changed with time, like 1400 years, and different cultures and different tongues, and is not little. It had a huge impact on understanding. Although the core of Islam can never be, it's intact and can never be changed, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said that inna nahnu nazzalna az-zikra wa inna lahu lahafizun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had guaranteed the preservation of Quran. So, but the understanding of many things was changed and was reflected on our behavior and our application of Islam in our life majorly. So that's what we are doing. That's what we are saying, that we have to understand the definition that and the words that are in the Quran, so we can know the real meaning of Quran and what really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And we went over the Allah, al-Ilah, al-Rabb, al-Ibadah, al-Deen, and we finished with al-Tawheed. And we said Tawheed is anything that exceeds the limit, and that it doesn't have to be a being in terms of like Shaitan itself, Shaitan that stood in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and denied his order. But it can be Shaitan, and it can be anything that actually performs as Shaitan, or as a Shaitan, like any body or entity. That it can be a parliament, it can be a group of people, a group of military coup, and they take over and they rule with their own laws. So this is Tawheed. So having said that, having looked at these four things, we will go back to the Tawheed, and how can we understand Tawheed based on what we have seen in the breakdown of these words. Because we started by saying La ilaha illallah, and we said La ilaha, and we started with understanding what Ilah means, and then we went over all the other things, and why La ilaha illallah is the word of Shahada, and what does it mean? What does it reflect? La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. What does it mean? What does it reflect? And how can we understand it in the right way? Because it is the title of our Tawheed. It is where Rasulullah said, Rasulullah called all the Arabs and the world and all the humans to say La ilaha illallah. Why? What is? I mean, we can say La ilaha illallah, but saying it's not going to change anything. It is what it means. What does it carry? And in order to understand that, we had to go over these definitions, and then we had, in the light of that, we have to understand what Tawheed means. From studying, scholars of Ahl Sunnah al Jama'ah, from studying the Quran, all the ayahs of Quran put together, and with this understanding of all the meanings of the words in its original Arabic language, and all the definitions, and how Arabs used to live, what was their culture, all these things put together. When they looked at all these things, they understood, and they conveyed to us what that Tawheed meant to Sahaba who listened to Rasulullah firsthand. What does it mean? So they actually, because these are scholars, and they based on how research is done, they said, we found out that there are 3 different groups of things. Some of them said there are 2, and some divided them to 3, but they are the same. And I have to note here that no matter how we divide things, how we for the purpose of studying, it all means the same thing. It all goes back to one understanding. It all goes back in Tawheed to La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. There is no conflict between calling it this or that or dividing. This is purpose for studying, only for that. And it all goes back, you can all connect it back to its origin, that is built in Quran, in the ayahs, and in Hadith Rasulullah sallallahu, all of it, with no exception. So they divided it to the people who divided it, the scholars, to 2. They said there is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, we know what Rububiyyah, it's a word that is structured from Rabb. Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah is a word structured from Ilah. So Tawheed al-Rububiyyah wa Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, or some of them call it Tawheed al-Ibadah. So Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Ibadah. And from what we heard about al-Uluhiyyah and al-Ibadah, we can understand the relationship between the 2. Because like we said, al-Uluhiyyah is how mankind perceive Allah, how we like raise our hands and open our hearts, and how we deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ways of ibadah for Him. That is because He is our ilah. He is our ilah. From us to Him is the uluhiyyah. From Him to us it's rububiyyah. He is Rabb over us. He is the one that created, that took care of us, whatever He is giving us is rububiyyah. Whatever we were asked to give for all these na'am, for all these bounties, is in terms of Him being our ilah, because al-ilah is ta'lahuhu al-qulub, hearts go to Him. So this is a reflection from us to Him. It's directed from us to Him. And what is reflected from us to Him is al-ibadah. So Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah is actually Tawheed al-Ibadah. It's the same word. So they divided Tawheed al-Rububiyyah ila Tawheed and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, or al-Ibadah / Ibadah. The people who divide it to 3, they say, well, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is actually not one thing. Because Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, they divided it to 2. They divided to 2 parts. One is Tawheed al-Asma' wal-Sifat and Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. They said Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is different than Tawheed al-Asma' wal-Sifat, because Allah has names and attributed that belongs to Him. it is attached to him, Jalla Jalaluh. So this is Tawheed al-Asma' wal-Sifat, because we need to know al-Asma' wal-Sifat. All prophets before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they knew parts of this Asma' and parts of this Sifat. All the Risala came with part, but it never came complete and comprehensive like in the last message with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it was actually, of course, all the Anbiya knew what it is, but it wasn't reflected in the books and in the message itself. But the Anbiya, they knew what it is, definitely. But and some of these attributes and names, although Deen itself and the Shara itself had changed or missed or forgotten with time, some of these names and attributes stayed in the memory of humanity, like Al-Khaliq, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Al-Khaliq. Everybody had this concept of Khaliq, except like we said before, that those who said there is no Khaliq, Al-Mulhideen, the atheists, they had always been a little group. So what about the rest? In the memory of the humanity, it stays, and we know why. We said why before, but I'll say it again when we come to the point. So the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs to be recognized and known as Tawheed Asma' al-Sifat, and Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is about the bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, and because these bounties are the ayat, like the water from the sky, the rain, the oceans, the lakes, plants, the system, the reproduction system in humans, all the systems that inside the human body that sustains our existence, the soil, the clouds and how it works, the jibal, the mountains, every single thing, the food, the meat, the al-khayla wal-bighala wal-hamir, the donkeys, horses, mules, everything is ayat from Allah, and they are bounties, because the ayah is a bounty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this ayat in order to either a bounty so we can use it, or a bounty that reflects His greatness. So we use it as well in worshipping Him. So there is a use for it, because some people, I hear all the time that some people say, why all these creatures we see in the bottom of the ocean, and all these, and all the extensive existence of galaxies and you know, and the extensive expanding of the universe. Why all of that? Humans, they don't need this. It was only, even the solar system is enough for us. But it is not about that. It's about the greatness of Allah. It's about see how great it. Every time you find a new thing, you say, Subhanallah. He is so great. He is so big. You know? It's about that. It's not about we use it, but we use it to understand and to appreciate. That's it. So al-ayat and the bounties, they are both put together, which is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. So we have three Tawheed al-Asma' al-Sifat, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah / al-Ibadah. whatever you look at it, you want to look at it this way, you want to look at it the other way. One of them is about Allah with His names, attributes, and ayat, and one about us doing what we need to do toward Allah, which is ibadah and ta'lih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we talk about Tawheed al-ibadah, Tawheed al-rububiyyah first, when Al-Quran has its way in giving humans the proofs of Tawheed al-rububiyyah, of ayatillah, how He introduced to human, and how He presented to human. There is a way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala present this to us. When this happened, when the Islamic empire started to expand and started to expand and the sciences and books of the Greeks, the Greek were translated, and what happened is that Arabs were introduced to this culture, the Greeks' culture, and the Greeks' philosophy, Greeks' logic, Aristotle's logic, and of course there were Christians. We met with Christians because, like we said, we don't invade in the meaning of invasion like other invading countries. Like, we don't take soldiers and go there and the soldiers control the people, and then after 2 centuries or 3 centuries we move back, the soldiers move back and leave the country. So we go and settle. Muslims go and settle in this, and they become part of the fabric of society. So that's the difference between Ghazw and Fath. We are not Ghuzah, we are not invaders. We are Fatihun, which doesn't have an English word, because the meaning doesn't exist in the mind of the West, which is carrying a message. Fatihun means the carriers of a message that has to be delivered and to be applied, and the Fatihun and the original people who live in these countries, the indigenous people, they of these countries, they are one part. They become the same. There is no. Rasulullah said, "La farqa bayna Arabiyyin wa Ajami." There's no difference between the person who carry the message there and the person who used to live there. They live together. They marry together. They become one. It's not a soldier anymore. A soldier, and they are all a citizen of the Islamic entity, the big Islamic entity. So there is a difference between invaders and Fatihun. So because again, you will hear this many times. You said, oh, you invaded us, the Muslims invaded us in Europe and invaded us. No, we didn't invade anybody. We are settlers. We are people of da'wah and settlers. We are not invaded. Tell me, where are the British who invaded India? Where did they go? They're back. They took the treasures and went back. Where are the invaders who stayed in Egypt 90 years? None. Where are the French? Where is the French? Where is the Portuguese or the Spanish or the Americans when they went anywhere? None. But look at the Muslims. The Muslims, they went to India. There are 400 million Muslims there now. And they are Muslims. And some of them are descendants of the, like Nadawi, and so many of them descendants of Arabs. In Turkestan, China, and everywhere, Afghanistan, Iran, all the Soviet republics that Russia took over. Everybody, Egypt was, with their term, invaded. Invaded was what? There were 3,000 soldiers. How come 3,000 soldiers become now 100? Exactly, there is 100 million Muslims in Egypt. Because there is 108 million there, 8 of them are, or 7 of them are Christians, and the rest are Muslims. See? And they all say we are Arabs who speak the Arabic. We make ibadah to Allah. We adopt Quran. So it's a different psychology, it's a different culture, it's a different way of doing things altogether. So when Greek books were translated to Arabic, and when Greeks came, and some of them stayed as continued as Christians, some of them actually become Muslims. When we did that, when this happened and it translated, the Christians started to question our aqidah based on their way of thinking, with their own logic that was built through their Greek philosophy, which is pretty ancient and pretty deep as well. No one said that it is not deep. It's very deep in thinking and in looking at things and trying, like using the human brain to the maximum it can actually achieve without guidance from Allah. And this is a huge thing, because without guidance you can go high, but you go in million directions and you will never know what the right one is. With the guidance of Allah, you can go even higher, but in the right direction, and you achieve what you want. So that's the difference between the two. So what happened is, when Muslims were confronted with this kind of logic, they tried to respond. And responding resulted in a creation of this science called Ilm al-Kalam. Ilm al-Kalam, which is, I think it has a name in English. They called it a name, but it's in the Arabic sense. It's the science of talking. Why? Because it doesn't carry any application. It's only about argument about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How does he exist? No, he doesn't exist. How he exists? How he doesn't exist? The proof of existence. It's all about talking. It is not like you read Quran, you find that Quran is about ayahs of Allah, names of Allah, existence of Allah, and what do we do in our life, right? How we marry, how we have contacts, how we bury our dead. So it is completely different. But this is not so. After a while, and see how things develop to be really bad thing. Ilm al-Kalam, because it talks about Allah, they call it Ilm al-Tawheed. Boy, they carried the name Tawheed from its original meaning, which is al-Rububiyyah and al-Ibadah and Uluhiyyah, to only talking about the existence of Allah and its proof and how you argue with the Greeks. So that was a huge break in the mentality and the structure of the Islamic thinking. The introduction of Ilm al-Kalam, it was a big crack in how Muslims think and how they approach Sharia, because it divided completely the Tawheed between al-Kalam, what regards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and proof of Allah, and the Sharia. What did they do then with Sharia? They because they started to study. There's a second crack, because there was two cracks. Ilm al-Kalam, it's called analogy or something. It's called something like that. Ilm al-Kalam, and the second crack is the differentiation between ibadat and muamalat in fiqh. This differentiation, what happened is that because they started to write down the fiqh, masail al-fiqh, and the things that happens to people, so it can be like precedents and stuff, and writing was introduced, because writing was not in the beginning at all. It was, like we said before, it was all in the minds of the Sahaba and many of the Tabi'een. Then in the late Tabi'een, at the time of Abu Hanifa and Abdullah ibn Mubarak and stuff, then all the Tabi'een, and after that, the Qurun al-Thalatha al-Ula, writing was introduced, and they started to write everything. When they wrote it, they chose to put like the chapters of ibadat first, they called it chapter of, they didn't call it actual ibadat. They started with salah, and then second chapter siyam. They started with the 5 pillars, which is normal. The 5 pillars: zakah, hajj, and then they at that time they didn't put La ilaha illallah as a. They actually, some of them like al-Bukhari, left it to the end of his book. Why? Because they say the fiqh of Bukhari is so high, to the point where he said that after because you have to know everything about ibadat and stuff. He put the no. He actually put it in the beginning and put the book of jihad at the end. So because he said no one should talk about jihad before he knows how to make istinja and know all these things. So but they put like in Sahih Muslim, Sharh al-Nawawi, and they put Bab al-Iman, Kitab al-Iman, and Kitab al-Iman, they talk about Rububiyyah and this and that, and not necessarily Rububiyyah and not necessarily these definitions, but they talk about all these components put together. What is Iman, Yazid wa Yanqus, and all these kinds, which we are going to talk about later. But anyways, so when they started to write these chapters about praying, fasting, zakat, hajj, and then they started the chapter for marriage, divorce, writing contracts, different contracts, muzara'a, planting together, the trading, and all the chapters of fiqh. They call the first 5, Iman is Iman, but the first parts, praying and zakah and hajj and siyam, they called it al-ibadat. And they called the rest al-mu'amalat. Al-mu'amalat means trading between humans. When you trade something, يعامله. يقول عاملت فلان means I gave him something and he gave me something. So al-mu'amala is to trade. So they called it al-mu'amalat. So when this was established in the book, and with also the establishment of kitab of ilm al-kalam as Tawheed, as talking about the existence of Allah, and Sharia as whatever Allah subhanahu asked us to do, this second crack happened in terms of, we thought that ibadah is connected to ibadat, to the first four chapters, because they call it ibadat and mu'amalat. So what is ibadat? This and this. So ibadat and ibadah, although mu'amalat is ibadah, because it's the same Quran, it's the same ayat, it's the same Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's everything. It never been divided before. But in the eyes of the people who study and how it developed, that crack happened from this. I actually wrote it in my book, in my book مقدمة في أسباب اختلاف المسلمين وتفرقهم, introduction in the reason why the division and split of Muslims happened. I put these 2 reasons as main, these cracks. The crack of ilm al-kalam and the differentiation between Tawheed. They called it ilm al-Tawheed. So they forgot Tawheed as a Tawheed, like Tawheed we're talking about. Tawheed Uliyah, Tawheed Rubiyyah, and the crack of al-ibadat and al-mu'amalat. And consider ibadah is, so if you make salah, zakah, hajj, siyam, you are doing ibadah to Allah. What is the rest? They are doing mu'amalat between us. It has nothing to do with Sharia. It has nothing to do with deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's actually was the introduction I wanted to tell you about Tawheed before we talk about Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. We will talk about Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and the proofs of the existence of Allah in ilm al-kalam, how they mixed it up and made it like really ununderstandable and away from the way of Quran and Sunnah, and how it is introduced in Quran, the proofs of wujudillah, the proofs of khalqillah lil-kawn, the proof. All these proofs will be introduced in the inshallah in Tawheed al-Rububiyyah with the ayat and hadith, and then we will move to Tawheed al-Asma' wa Sifat after that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.